Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Police Mentors. It's Mark Bouchard here. Super excited to have you. This is episode 3. And today I have one of my mentors, David Ogilvy. Dave is a police officer with the Delta Police Department, which was my first department. He has 22 years on the job. He's a sergeant in the Operational Skills Unit, which is basically the training section. And we worked together for several years on the emergency response team. And for everyone's awareness, Dave actually was one of the trainers that helped train me back when I was a police volunteer. And Dave, I learned so much from you. I feel so fortunate to have had that experience. You also were one of the trainers when I did my first ERT course, which I had to redo the room clearing portion when I switched to the RCMP, but very fortunate to have you there. And then you got onto the ERT team before I did. So when I came over, you were a mentor in that. And then at one point, you took over the lead for our medic program, and I was kind of your helper. So I got to do some of the day jobs, but you set the vision, and again, I got to learn a lot from you through that too. So part of why I started this podcast is because I wanted to get people like you on. You're someone that's not out there, super vocal, like there's people on social media trying to look for all this attention. And I have this great network of buddies like you and mentors and peers. And I just wanted to share some of that knowledge. So I'd like to start off just by welcoming you on the show and saying thank you for coming on.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Mark. I really appreciate you having me on. All that work background is really great info, and I've had a pretty awesome career. There's no question. The things I've got to do has been pretty amazing. But more important than all of that is I've got a wife. We've been together for over 30 years. Got 4 adult children, 4 grandchildren. That's what's really important. Family is, people say family first, and often in policing, you'll hear people say, policing is, when you get into policing, it's family. And it's not. It's an awesome group of people, and it's a really great place to be, but it's not family. Family is family. It's much, much different. So that's what's really important.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more, Dave. And I mean, I came out of the ERP program fairly recently. And one of the things that impacted me was things like my kid. At that time, my kid was probably 3 or 4, saying, like, "Dad, you're never here. How come I don't see you? Like, where are you?"
Mm-hmm.
And I'd be gone for days at a time. We had a huge area to cover. I worked full-time patrol. All my ERT duties was on top of it, and you couldn't get the time back. It was all money.
Yeah.
And it was a real tough decision to move my family across the country. But, what made me think of a book like Dr. Gilmartin, Emotional Survival for Law Enforcement. And at the very end of the book, he tells the story of 2 dads. And the one dad, his kid won't talk to him on his deathbed.
Yeah.
And that really sticks with me. And unfortunately, I've seen people in our career who don't have relationships with their families, with their kids. And I remember when I went through the JI, or my intro police training, that was what our instructors all joke about, being on their 3rd divorce and just how much damage was in their family. And I think we can change that. And I think it changes with conversations like this, with the kind of stuff I learned from you. And try and pass it on and make it better for the next generation. So thank you for mentoring that, showing me a bit of the way and passing it on.
Yeah. You can either be really awesome at your job, or you can be a really awesome dad. Um, you could be good at both, but if you want to choose to be awesome at one or the other, you're going to have to choose at some point. For many years, for us, a little bit financially, we chose to have Carrie as a stay-at-home mom. So, financially, I had to be working. But I tell you what, brother, the number of people now that have left the program, every single one of them that I talked to afterwards has the same kind of realization. When you first get on the team, you're super stoked. Everything's brand new. You want to be focused, you're trying to learn. You're trying to be the best new guy you can be. All of a sudden you're working a bunch of overtime, you're on call all the time, and you just at first don't even notice it. And then eventually, the analogy of the frog in the pot of boiling water, right? If you've got a pot of boiling water and you chuck a frog in there, he's going to jump out. The problem is the water is already boiling when you first get to the team, but you just don't care. Like you're super frog and you're like, I got this. But by the time you leave the team, guys have no realization how long they've just been living in that state of that just hypervigilance. Wait for the I was going to say pager. waiting for the phone to ring, waiting for that text message, and then you're on a job, cleaning up from a job, prepping for the next job, or training for the next job. So it's very, very busy, but you're having so much fun, you just don't realize it. And there's no, especially on the team environment, there's like, a lot of kudos and high fives. Nobody high fives you for taking the garbage out or, running the kids to soccer practice. So it's, and nor should they, because that's just your job.
Yeah. Well, you talked a little bit about leaving the team. And I feel like as I've watched buddies leave the team, that I watched a lot of people go through a depression, that you have this incredible thing. And then when it's gone, you have this intense bond with a bunch of brothers and best friends, and it's hard to replace. Could you just talk a little bit about what it was like for you when you left?
Yeah, you know what? For me, of course, I had my shooting, and a whole bunch of stuff that kind of stemmed from that. And I was good till I wasn't good. And then I was off for about 5 or 6 months, and um, my psychologist, and I was going to mention his name, but he's way too busy, and he's so awesome. I don't want anybody, stealing time, so I can't get in. But he's brilliant. And when it was time to go back, I said to him, like, I'm good to go, I think. He says, yeah, you're good to go. And he said, you don't have to go back, right? You've done enough. And I said, no, I appreciate that, but I have to go back. And he said, no, I know you're going to, and you're good to go, but you don't have to. But for me, I had to go back so that I could kind of end on my own terms. So go back, a little bit of reintegration, get back in the stack, doing my thing, get back to being, a quality team member and, doing the job. And then it was time to go. So for me, it was a bit of a natural kind of timing. So, mind, body, everything else. It was just my time was up. And of course, as you know, with the municipal department, we have secondment timeframes, and my secondment was up, and I knew it was coming up. So a little bit different for me than maybe like some of the Mountie guys who, if they wanted to and things worked out, they could stay on the team forever. But I did notice, like, when I got off the team, I would be in groups of people, but it wasn't the same people, and there was just this kind of just a disconnect. And it took me a while to kind of get used to that. And the other thing was, it's comical for me because I try to be as low key as possible, but I'd be talking to people, and somebody pulled me aside, one of our inspectors, and they said, "Hey, when you first got on the job and you had, your team, the SWAT team leader of the day, how you did him and what you thought about him? These new people look at you the same way." And it didn't really make sense to me because I'm just me. But so that took a while to get kind of wrapped around. And then when I came back, I ended up going to the road. I had a really good squad, so they were good people, and it was good, but it was just different, right? So, and for me, although it was at one point, and you got to be very careful about this, policing can define you. It can become your everything. Kind of took me getting run over by a tractor trailer to figure out that there's more to life than policing. But yeah, as long as you've got other things in your world, which is so important, I think that makes the transition a little bit easier. It'd be really hard for guys that end up leaving um, uh, honorable reasons. Family member is sick, they need to move, etc. Like, where it's not your decision and it's not your time, and I think in those situations, or when it's sudden, I think that could be much more difficult.
Yeah. Well, thanks for sharing. I mean, a lot of stuff you said there, I'd love to touch on and
Yeah.
dive into. But I'll start with one, which was I spent some time off work as well
Mhm.
on stress leave,
Mhm.
and I was really nervous to go back. Like you're worried your buddies won't trust you, and it meant a lot to me to get to go back. I did a bunch more years, and then it was still hard for me when I left. But I think that ability to work your way back and to go in your own time, like you, I timed out, so I got almost 6 years that first time,
Yeah.
and then I managed to get back in the program. But yeah, I feel like in watching somebody's leave, there's like a hole, because as you described, when you get in, it kind of takes over a lot of your life.
Mhm.
And then when you leave, you need to re-identify. Like I went from being, Mark the hockey player
Yes.
to Mark the cop
Yes.
to Mark the ERT guy.
Yeah.
And now I've transitioned and I'm Mark the dad. Like
So
that's my biggest identity,
love that.
which means like, I mean, I had to pick, I was
Yeah.
going to struggle at one of those two.
Yeah.
And I still hope to get back in the program in all honesty, but I chose Mark the Dad over Mark the Earth Cop.
Yeah. That's smart. Yeah. Um, hit on something there. I was just trying to think. Yeah, getting back. When all those things you said are true. Like, are the guys going to know that I'm there for them, that I'm good to go? And it was challenging because I've been involved. I've been a trainer most of my police career. And so I really understand people coming back to work and the process and all those things and help people get back, previously, but standing at the 2-3 corner, holding scene security or holding a containment point. Well, 2 or 3 brand new guys are at the front door making entry. That was tough. I knew it was just a protest and it'll come around, but I could tell you exactly where it was and exactly where the spot. And I was just like, literally brand new dudes going in the front door, and I'm just like, okay, it's a time. But what was really great was when I was, back in the stack and solid, the guys got to see that, yeah, I was squared away and, yeah, and just leaving on my own, like, not that kind of air of mystique. And honestly, though, what's really important to add is if you've been through a thing and you've been off, getting back to that thing is not really important to hear this. That is not the measure of whether you're okay or not. And that might be even policing in general, right? If I don't get to be a cop, is that going to be the thing that says I'm okay? When I got trained for Cops for Cancer in 2005, got run over by a tractor trailer, and yeah, I'm in the hospital. My hand is completely messed up. And the thing I was saying to my wife right away was like, do I still get to be a cop when this is over? The chief of the day, Sessford was our chief at the time, Jim Sessford. And she kind of was upset. She left, and he came back in. And he stood at the foot of my bed. He said, listen, you're going to be a cop till you decide not to be a cop. And if we need to retrain you or whatever, get a different gun. Like, your job right now is just to get better. That's your job. And that's what I needed to hear at the time. And as the curtains open, there's all these cops out there, Delta cops that I went to the academy with that just had heard about it. And this was hours afterwards. And so those are the things where people say, oh, it's like a family. Yeah, it's like a family, but it's not family. Yeah, that was, that's what I needed to figure out. But that was my focus was, okay, my hand is screwed up. I had young kids at the time, and my immediate reaction wasn't, am I going to be able to pick up my kids or chuck a ball with my kids? What was like, do I still get to be a cop when this is over? Right. That was that time where it was my everything.
Yeah. Well, let's chat a bit about that injury.
Yeah.
And I think it's such another important topic. I've had so many people express to me they're interested in doing SWAT or emergency response teamwork, and often they have a reason they can't. And sometimes maybe there's a legitimate reason to it. I mean, from my backstory, I had a really massive knee injury. My knee's never been okay.
Right.
My knee's never been the same, but it's been good enough that I can do my job and still stay fit enough.
Yes.
And obviously your hand, that's your gun hand, that's your dominant hand. You are missing a finger entirely. You have another finger that I think does not fully work as a normal finger,
Yep.
right? And yet you didn't get an adjusted shooting test. You didn't get an adjusted physical. And you also didn't allow yourself to just stay stuck in I feel sorry for myself, I can't do it, because, you went out and actually found a way to still, make some of your dreams happen. Could you just tell everyone a little bit about what you went through?
Yeah.
Maybe what your mindset was, how you did it, and what that was like for you?
Yeah, for sure. Life's rough. Get a helmet. When
I love that, Dave. It's true though. It's true.
Yeah, you know what? Bad stuff happens, and sometimes people can get down on themselves, or like, I've had people say, I just feel like the world's out to get me. Slow down. I don't know how important you think you are, but the world doesn't care about you, and I don't really mean that in a negative way, but it literally doesn't give a rat's ass about you. It's people are too busy worrying about their own stuff. And so when stuff happens, you have two choices. You can get up and fight, or you can roll over and wet on yourself. Right. And those are the only two choices. So I chose to get up and fight. And it was a significant injury. So, people say, "Oh, you lost a finger." I said, "No, I'm not irresponsible. I know exactly where it went." Uh, and so, yeah, the pinky finger was ground off, and get the best angle there. This ring finger doesn't bend, so this joint was destroyed as well. And they actually took a piece of my iliac crest, which is in your hip, and did a bone graft. And so that's what I got is like 2.5, 2.5 and a thumb. And there's these physical standards to get on the team at the time were very difficult. I think selection week is definitely more challenging. There's no question about that, and you got to be prepared for that. I'm telling you right now. But if you just get there and don't quit, you're probably going to be okay. But for me, the physical standards weren't adjusted, and when I was doing the weighted pull-ups, I looked a little bit like Bambi walking on ice, but I got them done, and I just continued to get physically stronger from that point. So yeah, you're going to get thrown curveballs, and the next thing is up to you. The choice is yours, and it's okay if you don't do it. That's fine. But just know that many people have the will to win. Few people have the will to train to win, right? And so you can want to do this thing, but if you're not willing to do the training that it takes to get there, then it's never going to happen.
Yeah, you just made me think of that Sun Tzu quote. And it's basically like victorious warriors, prepare first and then show up and win.
Yeah,
Versus the people who show up hoping to win, they don't win.
yeah,
And I
agreed.
actually think that's a large part of what tactical policing, SWAT or work is. It's you're going to get an incredible amount of time, resources to prepare to win in near impossible situations. And it's, did you do that effectively, or did you just take it easy because you could on some days? Did you really get ready for the hard day?
Yeah,
And ultimately, you talked a little bit about having been through a shooting and having been through one of those days.
yeah.
So,
I've
yeah,
had
obviously
arguments.
you prepared.
Yeah, I've had arguments with the
Go
guys
ahead.
on the team about, "Oh, you think any cop could do this?" Yeah, 100%. I think anybody could do it if they're willing to put the time, work, and effort in. There's no question anybody can do it. And the proof of that is the amount of times someone ends up going to selection and isn't successful for whatever reason, and they go back and they work and they do the things they need to do to become successful their next go round. Um, and yeah, literally anybody could do this. And you know, uh, we don't get a cape when you finish the basic course. You're still you're still a cop and still a human being. Like, yeah, literally anybody can do this, but it's not easy, right? It's simple. If you follow a plan, it's simple, but it's not easy.
Yeah, I'll definitely agree with you there. Well, one of the things I'd like to talk about is a bit about your Cops for Cancer work.
Mhm.
It's one of the things I actually admire about you is how dedicated you've been to that. Can you just tell everyone a bit about, how much time you spent in it and, I'll pump your tire a little bit. And I don't know the full details, but from what I understand, not only have you put all these years into the writing and to the fundraising, but you've raised over six figures,
Yeah,
correct me if I'm wrong,
absolutely. Yeah,
for sick kids with cancer.
yeah,
Like that is such a commendable thing. Uh, Good for you for doing that. I'm proud of you for doing that.
yeah,
So could you just share with everyone a little bit about your experience with Cops for Cancer?
yeah, for sure. I tell you what. First of all, it's going to have some human factor on the front and the end. And I first got involved. I was a fairly avid, a fairly what's the word I'm looking for? I was cycling aficionado. I did a lot of cycling, really enjoyed it. And so a little bit selfishly, it was like, oh, okay, well, there's this thing called Cops for Cancer. That looks kind of cool. You get to ride a bike. It's a good cause. Kids with cancer, like I can't think of many better causes. So yeah, that makes sense. And really, when you get position in policing, like you have a position and you can do nothing with it. You can do negative things with it, or you can take that position and actually do something positive with it. And I wanted a chance to kind of give back, but selfishly, some of my main motivations were, get a week off work where I can ride a bicycle. That's fun, and you're getting paid, so you're like a pro cyclist, right? Because you're getting paid while you ride a bike. Um, it was there's a chance to do some fundraising and get a free bike. Oh, okay, that's kind of interesting to me. Um, and um, and I was really about how much I could really give and impact and help these kids and their families. most of that just got completely destroyed very, very early on. Yeah, I still ended up getting, raising extra money and getting a free bike along the way. But that had absolutely, that is the smallest amount of what the thing is. Um, and it really becomes the realization that it's about the kids. And when you first meet these families, and make those connections, you find out very quickly that you're going to be getting a whole lot more than you could possibly give to these folks. And our family, my kids were young; they were about the same age as the young guy. Was 6 years old at the time. Probably when we first met him, probably 4 or 5. And so our kids kind of at these barbecues and the functions, they made really tight connections with this little guy and his older brother. Um, and so we were like, they would come over to our place for dinner. We'd go over there. We just made a really good connection with the family. And I'll never forget one of my kids, my second oldest son, is a type 1 diabetic and has been since he was 3. And we're standing in our kitchen, and this young kid's mom says to my wife, Carrie, says, because she'd just given him a needle or something, and she goes, "I don't understand. How can you do that? Like, that must be so hard." And at the same time, her child has a terminal illness and likely at that point, likely not going to make it, and ultimately didn't. And we had the honor of being there when he took his last breath in mom's arms, and that was a challenge. Uh, so it's all about the kids. It's all about the kids. And I was in that program from about 2005 till about 2017. And when it was time for me to leave the program, I remember saying to a friend of mine, I said, "Yeah, I'm thinking about leaving Cops for Cancer." And his response was very telling. He said, "You can't leave Cops for Cancer. You are Cops for Cancer." And that was exactly why it was time for me to go. I kind of, because of, watching this young guy pass away, and had been involved with another family, and wasn't there when he stepped away, but was certainly very close and tight. I started kind of distancing myself as a little bit of self-preservation. And eventually I think it became, that whole idea that, I am Cops Cancer is a little bit about me. So, like I say, like kind of a selfish start, and at the end, kind of a little bit losing the plot a little bit. But yeah, it was time for me to step away, and everything's got a shelf life. That being said, there's a barbecue tomorrow and a ride with the alumni, and I'm going out for that. So I might kind of dabble my toes a little bit back into it. So
Good for you, brother. Well, I'm so impressed with what you've done with that, and the fact that you get to stay involved as part of the alumni, maybe not be, as fully involved as you were at one point, but like, wow, what an important thing, and like so good for you to have done that.
but it comes down to, like I
Uh,
said, like the families, like people in general. I mean, not all, and things have definitely changed in the landscape in North America. And unfortunately, whatever happens in the U.S. is, attributed to us here. But um, you have a position, and people look up to you, and they grant you certain kind of status as far as integrity and all those kinds of things. So now, what are you going to do with it? Like, and if you can do nothing, there's no question. But you kind of have an obligation to do something to give back.
yeah, and I would echo that. Like to anybody out there listening, I mean, I'm guessing there will be many police officers that do listen to this. You know, how can you make your world better? And whether that's at work, whether that's not at work,
Yeah,
like some of this would be off work time, obviously. But it's kind of how I used to see a little bit of policing. Like, do we just want to sit around at the coffee shop complaining
yeah,
about what isn't good and what we don't like? Or do you want to go set up a roadblock and find a drunk driver?
yeah,
Or do you want to actually dig into that fraud file that no one ever investigates and go solve some crime?
yeah. I'm
Like,
gonna
oh,
say no
I'm
to the
better than
last one.
frauds. Well, it would get me
I
excited, but
know.
I might be a weirdo for that. But even things like finding the drunk drivers, man, like I don't know how many drunk drivers I've caught in my career. I would guess it's over 100.
Hmm.
I would actually guess well over 100. I suspect that saved somebody's life.
Agreed.
I don't say that jokingly.
Yeah,
There's times I've had in one traffic stop caught 2 drunk drivers. I don't know how you do that. but I
Love
did.
that. That's great.
And I don't say that to brag. Like, it's so often you could catch more than one in a shift. There's many shifts where I'd catch three,
Yeah.
right? And now those weren't necessarily all full crim code drunk driving cases, but you're getting someone off the road who might have gone on to kill someone.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would leave that challenge out there to anybody. What are you doing to make your world a better place, to impact your sphere of influence, both on and off the job? And I was actually going to end with this, but I'll share it right now. One of the things I heard from you is there's magic in the shirt, which really just means like the people before us, they did many great things, honorable things, and people respect you when they see you in the uniform
Yeah.
because of what those before you have built. And it's on you to maintain that honor so that you pass it on to the next generation.
Yeah.
So that's also part of my challenge I would love to share with the next generation.
I'm just
So,
looking down.
oh, go ahead, Ogre.
People might see that I'm actually looking at my phone. There's a reason for that. I'm just looking up for the name of a book that hits this that whole topic. It's called Legacy, and it's about the All Blacks. And they talk about leaving the jersey better than you found it. It's a great book for like teams, etc. And that's exactly true. People went before us, and they paved the way for us. And it's an honor and privilege to wear this uniform, and you can't throw that away. And when you first put it on, like the first time you walk down the sidewalk or in a mall in uniform, and people just get out of your way, you're like, that is weird. What? And then you kind of look down at yourself and really, oh yeah, okay, I've got a uniform on, and when we talk about use of force, and this gets lost a lot of times. We've got the subject behavior, we've got the situation in the middle, and then we have subject behaviors, the black and gray, and then on the outside, the colors. One of those things is officer presence, and just her presence is actually a level. It's very, very low, but it's a level of force. And when we have the ability to control our actions and do right instead of wrong, then that's how we keep the magic in the shirt. We are constantly. There's not a lot that's super black and white in policing. There is very black and white, right, wrong, but we live in this world of gray. And talk about walking on. I mean, I know you've heard this before, but talk about in policing, you're walking along the side of a ditch, and nobody has ever. Sorry, let me back up. Lots of people have intentionally jumped from one side to the other of a ditch. That's totally possible, and people have accidentally fallen into a ditch. That's possible. It's not possible to accidentally jump over to the other side of the ditch. And so when you think about it, the right is on this side of the ditch, wrong is on the other side of the ditch. And in the middle is like, I've kind of screwed up, gray, etc. And yeah, sometimes we make mistakes. We fall in the ditch. And from the good side, I can reach my hand down there and go, hey, give me your hand. Come on up here. Let me give you a hand. We'll sort this out together. We'll take responsibility. We'll do all those things that we should do to make it as right as possible. And then we'll take our lumps. But when you jump to the other side of that ditch, it would mean that I would have to intentionally step into the ditch. And I don't do that. I might accidentally fall in the ditch, and I have time and time again. But when somebody jumps to the other side, that's when they're doing something intentionally wrong. And I'll tell you, you think about it as a young copper, you're talking about a $2.5 million to $3 million decision, because if you lose your job, that's what it's going to equate to. Not only that, worse than that is you're taking the magic out of the shirt. When somebody deals with somebody and they're ignorant, or they lie to them, or those kinds of things. Yeah, you might win. That thing might have worked for you in that instance, but some other member is going to have to deal with them tomorrow, next week, next year. And you're just making their job much more difficult.
Yeah, I recall being a police volunteer and you teaching us about ethics and morality and that kind of stuff. And one of the terms you had said is basically like, my arms don't reach that far down.
Yeah.
Like, I'm here to help you. If you're trying your best, like, obviously we'll help you through things and we'll make mistakes, and we understand that. But it's that difference of like knowingly, intentionally doing, highly unethical things.
Yeah.
We're not here to cover it up.
No, absolutely.
And that's actually a real part of why I wanted to chat with you, because I think we often hear of the thin blue line as though that's what it is. It gets it almost gets overlapped with this concept of like a blue wall of silence.
Yeah.
Like, you could do anything, and no matter what, I will always cover for you. And I think it's a bunch of BS. I don't actually think that's at all how it's used.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, it's just very mischaracterized. And personally, what I see with something like thin blue line, it's used often as like a sign of shared understanding of the danger, of the pain, of loss when we lose an officer. And I know obviously you got some tattoos. I'd love to just ask you a bit about that, a bit about what they mean to you, why you got it, when you got it,
Okay.
and just kind of what your take is around that topic.
Yeah, it's very interesting. A lot of agencies have gone through some drama over the thin blue line, and the subdued Canadian flag with the blue line through it, and you know uh, the challenge is you're right. The thin blue line is to me, and what I believe most of us means is about that camaraderie, about the shared loss, about the willingness to do for others that people will not do, about caring for one another, taking care of each other, both physically and mentally. Um, it's about that brotherhood, sisterhood, but it's not about you know, uh, lying, cheating, or stealing. Um, there's a law came out for the province of British Columbia not long ago, well, a couple years ago now. And when it first came out, people were like, "Oh, have you heard about the rat rule?" And I'm like, "Well, slow down. Like, first of all, the rule is this: is if a police officer has reasonable grounds to believe that they've observed another police officer use excessive force, then they're obligated to say something about it." Okay, well, if I observe you, which would never happen, but if I observe you use excessive force on somebody, then I've just witnessed an assault. And when I look over here, it says police, and my job is to enforce the law. And so, yeah, why wouldn't you say something? And when you talk about how this thing came about, um, it came about because police officer A takes a suspect who's in handcuffs, who he has beef with, behind the corner of a building with no physical injuries. Police officer B doesn't say or do anything, and Buddy comes back and he now has physical injuries. And so people like can get screwed up about this whole, well, I'm a stand-up guy, I want to take care of my people. And I agree with you. 100% you should be a stand-up guy and you should take care of your people. But what that looks like is when A starts walking around the corner, you intervene. And physically, if you need to, like you're going to fix that, maybe have to fix that relationship later. And maybe they're so ego driven, arrogant that they don't actually have the self-awareness to realize what you saved them from, and maybe that relationship never actually gets fixed. But that's how you take care of each other before the thing actually happens. And so, the thin blue line means, you know, uh, altruistic things to us. And when we have other groups that just get to try and decide what that means, that doesn't change its meaning. And so when you look at other symbolisms, and I'm not going to pick one specifically because I don't want to, offend anybody, but there's a number of different organizations and cultures and groups that have symbolism. And if the antithesis to that community or culture all of a sudden said, "Oh, well, now we're going to start using that symbol, and now this is what it means." No, that doesn't work, but in policing, it kinda has. Um, and it's in North America, there's the police paint, bucket of paint, and something happens in the States, and it's not uncommon for Canadians to stick that big wide brush in that bucket and paint, the US, Canada, everybody gets painted with the same kind of, paint. And, we're really apples and oranges, in comparison. Obviously, we're not perfect. So they can't somebody can't just say that, "No, we're now saying that this symbolizes X." But policing's one of the few places where, if you said, "All lawyers are crooked," somebody's gonna say, "Well, no, no, slow down, that's not true." Um, all doctors are, working for the pharmaceutical. No, that's not. All men are. No, no, that's not true. But often with a lot of people, this whole ACAB thing, all cops are bad, and people, yeah, that's right. Absolutely. All cops are bad. And, obviously that's not true. So for me, and I kind of alluded earlier, sometimes we've had agencies where they kind of get into this thing where the management is concerned, and perhaps fairly, that there's media attention about what this symbol means. And then they're saying, okay, you can't wear this on your uniform anymore. And so the people that truly understand what it means for them, obviously don't agree. And there's this friction that can happen. For me though, like, and I started talking about this with people, it's like, you can't, when you're at work, that your uniform doesn't belong to you, it belongs to the department. And in Abbotsford here, there's an amazing tulip festival every year. It's beautiful. It's awesome. I'm not hugely into flowers, but it's pretty cool. But if I was the president of the tulip festival and I had a pin, I don't get to wear that on my uniform, right? Even though it's altruistic and whatever, that's not an option. So this is their uniform, so you can't put what you got to wear whatever they say you have to wear. And there in life, there's few rules, whether it's in life or in work or whatever. Policing doesn't matter; they're all over the place. But if you come to my house, I've got laminate floors and dogs. Hey, don't worry about your shoes. They say I go to somebody else's house and I don't have the EQ to notice the shoes and start automatically taking my own shoes off, and they actually have to ask me to take my shoes off. I'm not going to hold my breath or pout or just say, "Oh, let's just stay here in the foyer." No, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to take my shoes off, and when I leave their house, I'm gonna put my shoes back on. It's their house, it's their rules. And often, there's these rules that we don't necessarily agree with, but you have to understand that, like, the grown-ups, anybody in a white shirt, they don't wake up in the morning and be like, "Hey, how can we screw with constables?" No, they've got some processing, right? They have some reasons for doing what they do that sometimes we might not have any understanding of. But at the end of the day, it's their rules. So take your shoes off, and when you go home, put your shoes back on. And people are like, "Oh, you don't get it, man. You don't understand." And I'm like, "Well, I think I do. Like, I've got, some tattoos here. It might be hard to see here. Let me go that way. There you go. It's
We
kind
can
of,
see him on the camera,
yeah,
Dave,
it's kind of
for
sideways.
anyone
So
watching.
the top one here, we're here, top one here, um, that's an angel slumped over the line. And then later I had the bottom one done just to incorporate kind of Remembrance Day, military, policing all together. And for me, like, no, I think I understand. I have it tattooed on my body. It's not going away. But for me, it does mean all those positive things that we talked about. And when I look at how well I was taken care of in this world, as far as my crash, and then specifically after my shooting, um, people who I had like no real relationship with whatsoever were calling me up the night before saying, "Hey, you got an appointment tomorrow. I'm going to be at your house at 8. Click." And one of those people was somebody I looked up to, and I was like super nervous. And now we're really pretty good friends. And so it's about the loss. And my motivation in training is the number 133, which unfortunately I think is going to be 134 now with the Tour de Coast, Tour de North Cops for Cancer team had a hit and run here, and two of the members were hurt significantly, and one has since passed away. And my hope is that they will include that as a line of duty death. But 133 police officers have been killed in line of duty in this province. And if you think that number is staggering, it's bad. There's no question. But have a look around in North America, and we're very blessed to work where we work. But my motivation is 134, and so when I look at all of the stuff, and I'm affected by North America policing just like everybody else. And the bottom tattoo, the one with the Peace Officer Memorial ribbon, and the poppy, that was inked, and this just was by happenstance. That was inked after the day after an event in the U.S. where 7 cops were murdered, and I'd seen some footage of it, and so it's just a reminder for me, like, you know, like I said, my motivation is to try and the best I can, anybody that I'm training, whether it be from Delta or one of the 6 agencies involved in the RMTC, is not 134. And I'm not naive. Now, my phone hasn't been ringing, and I'm sure it would be, but that could happen today in Delta. And so it's just a reminder to me that we need to take care of each other. And that means a whole bunch of different things, not just about, and it has nothing to do with lying, cheating, or stealing for somebody, right? Somebody has an event and they're trying and they're taking ownership. Yeah, I'm going to do everything in my power to make sure they're as best as they can be. But it's just about that connection and, being a part of, something bigger than yourself.
Yeah, I think That's a piece of what it means to me too, is that understanding of the shared danger. I think for those of us who've been there, and don't get me wrong, like I haven't been in an actual shooting, um, but I've been in a bunch of situations that have been pretty dangerous,
Absolutely.
and yeah, so I do understand that danger. There's numerous times in my career where I'm like, oh man, like I am very fortunate to be here. I
Yeah.
feel very, very fortunate, and it puts things in perspective.
Yeah.
You know, the other thing he mentioned was that ACAB, all cops are
Yeah.
bastards. There was a mural, I believe it's in Victoria, somewhere on the island, where that got included in the mural that was funded by the council at that
Yeah.
point.
Yeah.
And to me, that's about prejudice. That's about people where they prejudge that they hate all cops. And I think it ultimately comes down to a lack of understanding of what we do. We're not out there to hurt other people.
Yeah.
Like we're out there trying to save people,
Yeah.
and I know about the police shooting you were involved in. You weren't involved in it because you wanted to go race in to save yourself. You're doing this because we believe we have a chance to save someone,
Yeah.
an innocent person, and we're willing to risk our lives, potentially even die to do that. Right?
Absolutely.
That's what I think it's so important for society to understand this, because I think when I look at some of the police oversight and some of the cops that have been charged that should not be charged, that's what's been happening is society doesn't understand,
Mhm.
right? So then they end up being charged.
Mhm.
And I think it's partly on us within the law enforcement profession to help educate the public, right?
Yeah.
The public are the police are the public,
Yeah.
but they don't know what they don't know. And I use that analogy in my book of my dad. He actually is about to turn 78. He's never been in a situation where violence is an answer.
Right.
You disagree, you use logic, and if that doesn't work, you sue someone,
Yeah.
and the courts will decide.
Right.
And it's hard for people to wrap their head around a situation where someone else is actively doing violence, potentially even already killing people, and now your job is to deal with that. And I think that idea that we can de-escalate everything is a false starting point,
Yeah.
right? And I think let's de-escalate everything we can. Let's use our words. Let's take time. Let's use good tactics. I am totally on board with that.
Absolutely.
Even earlier, you mentioned something about officer presence. I have talked my way out of so many fights. And
Absolutely.
part of it is it's that ability to give things time and space. But part of it's also the presence. When people realize, oh, today's not the day,
Yeah.
and so sometimes they think they're the predator and you're the prey.
Yeah.
And I remember we had this one guy, he's getting all ready to fight us. Ready? We're in cells. He's got his cuffs on. He's grunting and he's, making fists and he's all these pre-assault cues.
Yeah.
And there's a bunch of us there, but I just walked up and I put my hand on his shoulder and I said, hey, like, I'm worried you're going to make me hurt you. And I don't want to have to do that.
Right.
And the dynamic flipped 180 degrees. His head slumped down and we didn't have to fight him.
Yeah.
And you know what he did? He got in the cell and then he said something like, I'm going to kill you to one of the other guys.
Yeah.
Okay. Guess what? You're in the cell.
Yeah.
We did our job. You can get charged with uttering threats as well.
Yeah.
And it reminds me, for my hockey analogy, it's like the guy who turns super tough after the referees break up the fight.
Yes.
It's like
Cup
they don't
tough.
want to fight when it's time to, they don't want to be tough when it's time to be tough.
Yeah.
They want to be tough when they can talk tough and not actually get hurt.
Yeah.
But back to Sun Tzu, like the whole, if you can win a fight without fighting, good, take the win. That's it. I'm not here to beat people up. I'm not here to hurt anybody. If we can score a win and we do our job of whatever is needed, and I'm not saying you back down from things. If you need to use violence to do your job and keep people safe, then you do it.
Yeah.
And I have had to do that in my career.
Sure.
But even like when we first transferred up to Williams Lake, or I first started working there, my wife had said that, hey, it's going to be different. Like you won't be able to talk your way out of fights up here. I still talked my way out of almost every fight.
Yeah.
Because you can. And I think I'm pretty good with my words.
Yeah.
I think I have pretty good presence. I'm 5'10", 210, and I know how to take care of myself. So between that, I'm not provoking anybody, but I'm also not giving off an impression like I can be pushed around.
Right.
And I think that's an interesting balance.
Yeah.
What have you seen in your career?
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, violence is rarely the answer. Violence is rarely the answer. But when it is, it's the only answer. Right. And so
I like that.
Yeah. And I'm just into a book right now by Tim Larkin. It's called When Violence is the Answer. And really it comes down to, there's two different things. Are we talking about antisocial behavior or asocial behavior? And in policing, we don't have the luxury of often to just walk away and ignore antisocial behavior. Amazon's here. So we don't, like I said, we don't always have the ability to just walk away from that antisocial. Asocial is a totally different thing. That's where somebody's trying to, you know, to cause you grievous bodily harm or death or a member of your family. And in the civilian world, his thoughts are this: listen, if this thing that you're thinking about getting into, this violence you're about to use, if it's not worth being in the hospital, morgue, or jail 3 days from now, then walk away. And that might involve, your ego being bruised as you walk. So be it. If it's not worth it, it's not worth it. In policing, de-escalation is so important. But de-escalation might be we hit that guy with a 40 mil launcher, or we gassed him, or we tased him, instead of shooting him. That's still de-escalation. And I think people think, well, de-escalation is only when we talk to people, and if we haven't talked to them to the point where they completely surrender, we haven't had to use any force, then de-escalation was ineffective. That's absolutely not the case. You're talking about this guy. He goes inside the cell, and closes the door, and now beak, beak, beak. Right? I don't care if they have the last word. I'm totally fine with that because we have the last action. Right? So what do we want to do? We want to get him in a cell. Okay, he's in the cell. Gunk, last action. You're in the cell, and now say whatever you want. And can we lay new charges? Sure, whatever. But they can have the last word. My feelings aren't attached to what's going on here. And so when we find ourselves in situations where we do have to use violence, it's not, we don't get up in the morning. There's not a single cop that gets up in the morning and says, today I want to be involved in a shooting, or I want to, today's the day I want to, go have a fight with somebody. There's power. If I can, and when I have used violence on people, I dust them off afterwards, and I have a conversation with them about, like, let's make sure you understand why what happened to you today happened to you. And I explained to them, the importance of safety for us, and ultimate safety for them, safety of their community. And I always have the same phrase with saying, most of the people I deal with where it's kind of gone not as well as I wanted to, is I just ask them, like, did I treat you fairly? Now, I know you might not agree with what happened today, and you might not agree with the way it went, and I appreciate that. But did I personally treat you fairly? Oh, yeah, I guess so. Okay, cool. And I write that in my book. Yeah, I guess so. Right. So when the complaint comes in, like, I don't know, the guy said I treated him fairly, so I'm not sure where this is coming from. And it's not really a trick. It's also about getting them to understand. We had a young guy lived in Tawasin who was super anti-police. And I just built a relationship with him, and myself and another member who's since retired, who's a big, strong guy, was a trainer with our department. We wrapped him up like a Christmas present. He had a leg restraint on, and probably a hobble at the time because it was so long ago. We of course don't do that anymore. But I took him back to his place, and I did that exact same thing. I explained to him why was going on, and I just built a relationship with him so that he was still not great with a bunch of other cops. Some maybe deserving or not, who knows? But he was good with me. And about 2 years ago, my phone rang out of the blue, and it was a female, and she was talking to me, and she said, "I understand you're a police officer." Like, yeah. It was a bit odd, quite frankly. And she said, "Well, my friend, he says you're the only cop that can be trusted, and there's something going on right now, and it had something to do with some child exploitation." And pretty serious file that, they lived over on the island. They weren't anywhere close. And eventually I asked her, like, okay, well, who's the guy? And it took some prodding, but she told me, and it was this guy that had been this 17, 18-year-old kid, this anti-police, et cetera. But he reached out, and hopefully the information that I ended up actually talking to him on the phone, and he's got a kid, and he's got working his life and all that good stuff. But we have to, be nice until it's time not to be nice. When it's time not to be nice, be extremely not nice. Take succinct physical control in the first instance. And I mean that, within the confines of the law, policy, the National Use Force framework, etc. But take succinct physical control in the first instance. So be nice till it's time not to be nice. When it's time not to be nice, be really not nice within the confines of all those things. until the second you have control, and then just go back to being nice. It's not uncommon to get these guys that are cuff tough, right? Once they're in the handcuffs, beak, 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 because they know, okay, well, they can't do anything to me. But I've seen cops the same way, right? So maybe there's a big, strong dude, maybe a bit of a rounder street guy. They allow us to put cuffs on them. And then once they're in cuffs, the cop is like, hey, beak, beak, beak. And it's like, well, man, hey, slow down. How about I take the cuffs off? And, of course, this is not television. We can't just go put our gun belt away and have a consensual fight. That's ridiculous. But, so if we're not going to accept that behavior from a subject, then why, we should never be engaging in that ourselves.
Yeah, I hear you. I think too with the guys, and I've certainly had lots of people where they want to talk tough once they end up in cuffs.
Sure.
Um, the cuffs are always coming off.
Yeah.
Like we're going to the cell block, and then like that's what I would say to them, just like, hey man, like I get you're super tough. We're going back to cell block soon. I'm gonna have to take those handcuffs off you. Like I hope that you'll comply. I hope that we're gonna have to get you in a cell. You may not like it. I'd love for you to do this peacefully.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, you get a say. And I think what I like just from knowing you, what you described of even after bending someone like a pretzel or whatever happened that day, I think you actually want that person to feel like you treated them fairly.
Yeah,
I don't think it's just it's a liability. Like
no,
you want to leave every interaction with someone feeling like you treated them fairly.
Yeah.
And I will say, I echo that. And I think I learned a piece of that from you. I would try and leave every traffic stop where someone wants to thank me at the end. And that might sound unreasonable, but I've had lots of people I give a ticket to and they thank me.
Yeah.
Like genuinely thank me.
And I
would explain, here's what we're doing.
Yeah. That's that. When that happens, that's brilliant. That's a win.
The number of people I've arrested for drunk driving who thank me.
Yeah.
Not because I'm giving them a lecture and I'm being, mean to them, but it's like, hey man, I'm worried. Like when you really talk to them, usually they got a drinking problem.
Yeah.
And usually there's pain in their life.
Yeah.
Often they've lost a child or a parent or some other terrible issues come up in their life.
Yeah.
Like you said earlier, life gets hard.
Yeah.
And that pain is spilling out into the world.
Yeah.
And I'll often just try and spend a minute connecting with them and saying, hey, like, I don't want to be here arresting you for this. I want to keep our community safe. I'd rather help you get some help and see this problem from a very different lens than the, hey, just throwing you in jail kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I've had a bunch of people like legitimately, same like you said, thank me. And I think that's what we should be doing. We should strive to do a good job and connect with people. It doesn't mean we accept what they're doing, but like you said, like good came out of that. And I think in many other ways, that is what will happen. You will build trust in the community. You'll build respect. This goes back to putting the magic in the shirt. The person can leave at the end of the day being like, I don't like that cop used force, or I don't like that thing happened. I got arrested. I shouldn't have gone to jail. But I think, like you said, this person remembers years later you and felt safe enough to report something terrible, through that to you, that you could be trusted.
Yeah.
I think that really speaks volumes.
Any of the police recruits that I've ever had or had connection to will, if they're listening to this, will hear this again and probably roll their eyes and groan. But because I get it, I tell them this a few times, but at some point in the hiring process, you sat at the end of the long oak table. Now, fair enough, it was probably composite or something else, but stay with me. You're sitting at the end of that long oak table, and there's a bunch of grown-ups around. It's your final interview, and I promise you, if you're a cop listening to this thing, I promise you, your answers included, I want to make a difference. I want to have impact. I want to help people. And what I tell the recruits is never forget what you said at the end of the long oak table, because that's when things start going sideways. And, we're here because we want to do those things, and we should never stop wanting to do those things. Now, don't get me wrong. Are there times where, I'm dealing with somebody and those things are not in my mind? Yeah, absolutely. But we got to bring ourselves back to that, because that's why we're here. We've been empowered. It's a massive power that has been afforded to us to do things that other people can't do. The challenge with that too is this position also puts us in a place where we're going to see things that the rest of the world doesn't have to see. Your dad's an awesome guy. He's got a great practice. which I've recently been very fortunate to be a part of. Um, and but they haven't had a situation where they've had they don't know, like you said, they don't know what they don't know. Um, and so the average citizen doesn't have to see the things that we have to see, and if they do, it's maybe once in their lifetime. But we're going to these calls. It's very rare for somebody to call up the police department and say, "Hey, you know what? Everything's really good. You know, I just put on a fresh pot of coffee. If any of your members want to swing by for a coffee, it'd be great." We don't get that. People call us when they're in their worst, and we have to be our best, and not losing sight of this person and what it means to them. We can go to files that we've been to hundreds of times before, and you're like, a B&E is a great example. Oh, good, another B&E. Oh, here we go. But if it's most of the time, people don't get multiple B&Es. It's violating. It's scary. There's a lot going on in their world, and you have to keep in mind that person's perspective, and it might be your 8th B&E that week, but it's the first time for them, and it's a massive deal. Talk about dealing with people on the road and being good to them and explaining things and having people say thank you afterwards. That's a good thing. And if you're a good cop, that shouldn't be super uncommon. Most people's involvement with the police are like good people, and that's who we need to win over, quite frankly, because a lot of people that are on the far side of all cops are bastards, they don't want to listen anyways, and it's very hard to evoke change in those people. So how do we get more people to be able to stand up and go, that's not true, actually. I just got a ticket. Oh, yeah, I see you got a ticket. Yeah, but I wasn't wearing my seatbelt. And, the officer explained to me the importance of that and how they've been to a crash recently and however that went down. But it's about building positive people in the community, maybe selfishly so that, we've got a good plan, but really because it's the right thing to do. And so when people's involvement with the police is very limited, it is that maybe the only involvement they ever have is a traffic stop. And if we have somebody who's, overbearing, egomaniac, whatever, and they naturally, as you know, we don't automatically write a positive default mindset. It's always going to be a negative. And if now we're just, see, there you go. That just proves it because they've had one interaction with one cop and it wasn't great. So it's important for us don't forget what you said at the end of the long oak table and that it will serve you well.
Yeah, I've sat in on lots of recruiting interviews. We used to have the panel interview
Yeah.
when I was with Delta, and I actually got to help on a bunch. And every person that came through said, "I want to help people," and that's how I feel. So I'm with you. I think we need to come back to that as our why. We need to recognize that, and often we can lose sight of that we are helping people.
Yeah.
Like even up to that most extreme thing of something like a shooting, it's hard for us to wrap our heads around that helping, literally trying to save someone, can mean hurting someone else.
Absolutely.
And that can be, it can be hard on us, right? You mentioned the B&E thing. I still remember this call. I took a B&E and I solved it the same day.
Nice.
Went and got this person back not only thousands of dollars worth of stuff, but stuff from their wedding, stuff that
nice.
the level of gratitude and just meaning it had to them.
Yeah.
Like that's why I'll never forget it, was because when we get a chance to make a difference like that, it's so meaningful. That's what there'll be another 100 that I didn't solve or whatever. There'll be a lot.
Yeah.
But when we get a chance to make a difference, we really got to celebrate those because there's going to be some hard days too.
Agreed.
And I know you and I have talked a bit about the mental health side of the job.
Yeah.
Right. And I know you touched on that a little bit in what you just said there. Both, you and I used to basically be mental health instructors. So R2MR, right? We've taught a bunch of that together. And I'd like to just open up a little conversation around that. Like we just talked a little bit about how this job can really impact us too. Would you feel comfortable sharing a little bit about, some of what that was like, and maybe I'll discuss that a little bit with you as well from my perspective.
Yeah, for sure. You know what? It's probably the most important thing. And I know how passionate you are about it for sure. You think about how much time and effort goes into shooting and use of force, which are kind of my specialties. So I'm biased in that realm. But when we look at how many cops are injured, and remember, it's just an injury, right? It's just an injury. And we look at how many cops are injured mentally. and or ultimately, maybe take their own lives. It's way higher than how many cops get killed on the job. 133. I promise you that that number pales in comparison to the number of members that have been injured by critical stress injury. Um, and so any chance I get, I talk about it. It's important. Everybody's wearing a backpack, and that backpack's invisible, obviously, but that, baggage, but that backpack is with us all the time. And when things happen to us, and they're just minor things, they're just, pebbles, really. And in policing, yeah, I understand, the difference between, a civilian, and policing, the things that we deal with in policing just because of the regularity of them and the just the sheer numbers, things that might be a bit of a boulder in one person's backpack. For the police, sometimes they're just small rocks, and not just in policing, but definitely in policing. When there's a boulder, a divorced family member dies, a sick kid, a shooting, a critical incident, these big things, there's that big rock, that big boulder is in your back, and everybody can see that, right? And so right away in those situations, almost always, we're very good now about, hey, that's heavy. I can see that's heavy. Like, let me help you carry your bag. Let's figure out how we can get that thing out of your bag. And the only way to get stuff out of your bag is by talking about it. Um, and the pebbles might just be a negative interaction with somebody at work or in life. And now you're carrying this thing. You had an argument with somebody. This is very small stuff. You had an argument with somebody. They said that the sky is purple and you said it's blue. Um, and you were adamant, and there's this real kind of negative interaction. But during that interaction, you responded correctly because the sky is blue, in case somebody wants to know. It is actually blue. But in that, I was belittling, or I was name calling, or any of those kinds of things. I was just ignorant. That's on me to take that thing out of my bag. And now I've got this small rock. It's small, but they all add up. And I've just put it out in the open here. Hey, listen, we have to agree to disagree. I still think the sky's blue, but when we had that conversation yesterday, I was inappropriate, and I did some things that I shouldn't have done. I'm not saying now, I'm not going to flip flop and say, oh, you're right, it's purple or whatever. No, it's still blue, but I was inappropriate in so taking responsibility for your own part in that thing. And then they get to pick up the rock and do whatever they want with it, but I'm not putting it back in my bag. They could say, I apologize, sorry about that. And they could say, well, I still think you're an idiot. And they can hang on to that rock for their whole life. That's up to them. But I've done what I can to make sure that neither one of us has to carry anymore. But we get these big boulders. There was a time where, when I first started policing, I don't know, I'm sure people were seeing a psychologist or a registered clinical counselor or something, but nobody talked about it. Like, I was completely unaware if anybody was. And so, but nowadays, it's not uncommon. And for me, my current inspector, the first time I ever saw a psychologist was after my bicycle crash. One of the things was I had a physical traumatic brain injury. So, you get that rattle, and kind of one of the easiest way to explain it is you have all these pathways and roads. There's a map inside your brain. And when you have a physical impact injury to your brain, sometimes what happens is the road erodes. And now your brain's got to figure out, okay, I need to make a detour, and it'll create a new road. Often, not always. Some people, the damage is so severe that it's not fixable. But so you can have some issues like divided attention and lack of ability to concentrate and those kinds of things. And for me, prior to the accident, I was about lifting and being, looking good and totally ego-driven stuff, young man stuff. Because one of the injuries was the nerve that makes your bicep fire was stretched, I knew I wasn't going to be symmetrical, and it's all screwed up. So I got to a point where I knew I needed to talk to somebody, but my thought was it was going to be like some little Eastern European lady, and it was going to be a dark room with a couch and a candle, and so I went to my family doctor. I said, listen, I need to see somebody. He said, well, actually, there's this lady whose name is Ursula Wilde. That should have been a clue. And she specializes in traumatic brain injuries related to like physical injuries. And why don't you go see her? So I go down there. Again, I haven't seen anybody ever in my life. I'm still kind of a little bit in that world where I think, and this is what's really important, is that self-stigma. I think it's still a really bad thing. I'm stigmatizing my own self. Nobody else is. And this inspector that works for me at the time, he was number 2 SWAT guy in ERT guy in Delta, somebody I looked up to very much so, still do. And that's not just a plug because he's my boss, but I actually do. And I mentioned to him, like, once I made a decision, I'm kind of an open book. I really don't yeah, this is what I'm doing. And I mentioned it to him, and he goes, "Oh, who are you going to go see? I see X." And I was blown away. Like, if this guy, this ERT guy this guy I look up to, if he can be seeing somebody, now I'm totally okay to see something. So I get to her office, and sure enough, she comes out of the back room, and she's a little Eastern European lady with a thick German accent, says, "Oh, welcome, come into my office." And it's a dark room with a candle and a couch. And, it was exactly what I thought. Now, my experiences since then are very, very different. But although it was those things I was worried it was gonna be, it was so helpful. Talk about the journaling and the breathing techniques and all of the really great stuff that stemmed from that first encounter was amazing, and it really, really helped me work through the time it took for the road mapping to work itself out. So that I had stopped seeing her, wasn't seeing anybody, and then, of course, we had the shooting. Shooting was on a Friday. Saturday morning, I go see the guy who I have continued to see ever since, and just know it's really important. Don't wait for a thing. I promise you, it's policing. You're gonna have a thing. You're gonna have a physical injury, like not just from policing, and you should have a family doctor. And I know not everybody does, which is kind of a weird concept to me because, that's new. I'm a 51-year-old white dude, and everybody that is in my world has a family doctor. Not everybody does. But if I have a physical injury tomorrow, I know exactly where I'm going to go. And when I go there, I don't have to talk about this or that or any of those other things because they already know about it. And so I can just go and deal with that thing that we're dealing with today. So it's vitally important, in my opinion, for you to go out and find a registered clinical counselor at the least. And the reason I say that is because cops are cheap. And that is the first level that is paid by most of our health plans, or a psychologist or a psychiatrist. Now, some people end up seeing a psychiatrist just because of referral or whatever. That doesn't mean you're worse off. It just means that's who you got into. Now, could you be seeing a psychologist and then get referred to a psychiatrist? Sure. The only real difference between the two is a psychiatrist can deal meds where the psychologist generally does not. But get someone now and go see someone, get a list, find out who the people are and ask around because there's some people that are on that list that people say, yeah, maybe not this one, right? And of course, I'm not going to get into those people are. But it's important that we see somebody early. Go, hey, okay, why are you here? Well, really, I don't have anything going on, but I want to have somebody in my back pocket. I want to have somebody that I can call when the thing happens. And you might get there and everything works out. You click, everything's good, and that's what happened after my shooting. I clicked with my doc. It was great. You might get somebody where you don't click. We had somebody that worked for Delta Police, a psychologist. Now I'm a cop, so I'm a little bit suspicious, anyways. And if they're working for the department, they might say something, which is nonsense, by the way. They're not going to, unless it causes harm to yourself or others. And I'll talk about that in a second. But this guy just did this incessantly. It drove me nuts. And I'm like, I could never go see that guy. That just drives me crazy. But I have a good friend of mine, very, very close friend of mine, who was in a specially elite unit in the military, was over in the sandbox, was involved in a number of instances where he used the highest level of violence with the expected outcome. And he wasn't okay. And this guy got him better. He sees somebody else now just because of, happenstance. But so go find somebody now when nothing's going on, make a connection, know that you can work with this person so that when the thing happens, you don't have to talk about everything else that's happening in life because you probably already unpacked all that stuff, right? The backpack, unpacking it by talking. And so now you can just deal with the thing. So I get involved in an incident on a Friday. We use violence that results in the death of the subject. This was not a surprise to me. I had some really great information and training, even as a sheriff. I started as a sheriff in 1998. My God, I sound old. And I was there until I came to policing in 2003. And early on in my career, I learned that it's important to anticipate that this stuff is going to happen. You should be thinking, and this is either physical, mental, either using force or something happened to you. You should be believing that that's going to happen. If you get through your career and it doesn't happen, awesome. But if you don't, if you go through policing thinking that I'm never going to have a mental health crisis or injury, or I'm never going to have to use violence against someone to that degree, you're that person who's holding a jack in the box that's never seen one before. And the music's playing, dun, 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 it's never, bing, and the clown jumps out, and I get it, clowns are scary. But if you have played with a jack in the box before, it's a difference between being an if thinker and a when thinker. And I tell the new police recruits when I have access to them is, listen, if you're sitting here and you're thinking, if I ever get into a situation where I have to use violence, or if I get into a situation where I'm going to have a mental health, then either change your mind, change your thinking, or get a new job, because your mindset should be when my event happens, I'm going to win the day. I'm not going to survive. I'm going to win the day. And when I have a critical health injury, whether it's physical or mental, I'm going to win that too. And so when my event happened, when that shooting happened, I was not surprised by it. I knew that was going to happen at some point. Prepare your family. My wife knew that at some point in my career, I was going to phone her, knew that at some point in my career, I was going to phone her and say, hey, and this is how it went. Hey, I've been involved, and there's been a shooting in Burnaby. I was involved. I was the shooter. The guy's dead. I'm okay. I can't talk about it. I'll talk to you later. And I basically hung up the phone. And she wasn't surprised when that came. She was affected by it for sure, but she wasn't surprised because we were prepared for that. So it's critically important that you have somebody that you can go to. And so when I went to see my guy on that Saturday morning, it was like, hey, here we go. Okay, I'm at it again. And this wasn't really, once you have a big, huge boulder, you might not have a choice, right? You might not have a choice, and you've got your department saying, hey, you got to go see someone. And now you got finite timings, and now you might get stuck with somebody you don't really click with. And so it's really important that you take responsibility for your own mental health, the same as your physical health, training, et cetera. And so lucky for me, I connected, and I sat down, and he said, listen, um, it's important for you to know a couple things. There is no confidentiality. And a lot of people think that there's confidentiality between your doctor or your spouse. Doctor hasn't been for, I don't know how long. Spouses, you don't have confidentiality with your spouse. You used to till about maybe 5 or 10 years ago. The only one you have confidentiality with, guaranteed, is with your lawyer. That's it. Nobody else. And so he said, listen, just so you know, like I can be a compellable witness, but I've got a really poor memory and I don't make very good notes. And so I'm like, okay, fair enough. What he did say though, is if you tell me something that I believe is going to put your life or the life of another person in danger, then I am obligated to say something. And so be it. I think that should be the case. But this idea that you're worried, you got to find somebody you can click with that you trust, because maybe you've done something, maybe you've jumped over the ditch. Nobody knows it. But you've jumped over the ditch. And that one thing, that ditch jump, is a thing that you really actually need to talk about. But if you don't trust your person, you're likely not going to talk about the ditch jumping. But that's really what you need to get through to heal. And don't get worried that, oh, well, if I talk about it, they're going to make me have to go. No, that's not the case. But just find somebody you trust, work on it early. Just know that, like, people all over the place in law enforcement are seeing somebody. It's the only, in my opinion, certainly in my agency, the only real stigma that still is there is that self-stigma, and it can be the hardest to get past.
Yeah. I mean, wow, so much wisdom there, Dave. And I mean, that's why I brought you on, man. I learned a lot of this stuff from you. And obviously, we got to teach a bunch of it and engage in many of these bigger discussions
Yeah.
around this. And that's something I've really learned. Like I would say, I wrote a book and, used stigma in the title. And that's the biggest thing I learned about stigma. It's so much easier to be okay with someone else struggling. It's so hard to get to a point where we're okay with ourselves having a hard time. And I spent years saying to myself, I haven't done anything wrong. I don't have anything to be ashamed of. It's because I didn't believe it for years. I thought I was weak and something's wrong with me and everyone else is fine. And then it was only when I came back and I started, like, you'd be riding with somebody on the team and you just open up and just be honest.
Yeah.
And you'd almost always hear, yeah, me too. You know,
Yeah.
yeah, my wife said she's going to leave me if I don't get help for my PTSD, or the panic attack thing. Yeah, I thought I was having a heart attack. Like, just, it's impacting all of us in slight variations.
Yeah.
Not everyone is exactly the same,
Yeah. That
but just that
self-talk.
we're all human.
Yeah. That self-talk it's brutal. There's I don't even try and say who it was. You might actually know. Um, yeah, I won't say the names because I don't want to misquote, but there's a individual you like I said you may well know, and they talk about having this inner voice, their inner Bobby Knight, and that they would make a mistake and they would just beat themselves up and be like, self-deprecating and just literally mean, horrible to themselves. And part of their recovery, getting through this and getting to a more stabilized, neutral place, their counselor, psychologist had them when they made a mistake, and they felt that kind of inner dialogue, to pause, take out their phone, do a selfie video, and imagine. And everybody who's listening to this right now, you can imagine a person in your life that you love, that you admire, that you respect, that you would want to take care of, and whoever that person is. Now, film a video, a selfie video of yourself talking to that person about that same mistake that you just made. And what would you be telling them, right? We'd be telling all those things that you should be telling yourself. That, you know what? Hey, listen, buddy, you're a good person. And, I love you. You're a really good dude. Yeah, you did this thing. It was kind of stupid. Fair. But that's not, you're not your whole is not just the things you've done. You're a whole person, and people make mistakes, and there's ways to make this better. And that's kind of, what we need to be doing. We need to change that inner dialogue. And again, it's one more of those things. It's simple, but not easy. And so it's vitally important that we take care of each other. In policing, there's this awesome camaraderie. I was talking to my son. We just spent a couple nights up in the bush with him, me, and his 5-year-old daughter. And on the way back, we were kind of talking about this. It's like, you got to be good to yourself. You got to have that like positive inner dialogue. And, sometimes things happen to us and we don't have any control over them. And it's important that we focus on the positives. So, yeah, like I was saying, like there's this strange dynamic in policing, right? Where, if they're not making fun of you, they either don't like you or don't trust you. And so there's this element of, dealing with stuff with humor. And, if you, I'm going to pick on somebody, if they ever listen to it, they'll maybe be mad. But I helped one of our members who actually lives in our complex here. I helped her get hired. She's an awesome kid. But she had a couple times during block 2 where she forgot to put it in park as she got out of the car. Right. And, jump back and put it in park because you're jacked up. You're excited, etc. And nobody teased her, but if you get called gear shift for the next 3 weeks, that's part of policing, right? If they're not making fun of you, they either don't like you or don't trust you. Right. And if they're not making fun of you, they don't like you or don't trust you. That's probably true, but they're still making fun of you. They're just doing it behind your back. So, it's important that when you get into this world, or if you're already in it, that you have to understand that's going to happen. You got to be a little bit thick-skinned. Now, I want you to hear me very clearly. I am not talking about any of the, the 7 or 8 or whatever they are, HR deadly sins, right? I'm not talking about anything that's race-based or gender-based or any of that nonsense. That stuff, absolutely, you don't have to put up with that. But just know there's a healthy amount of ribbing and things that go on, and that's part of that community. It's part of that connection, right? So,
Yeah, I think that's the best part of the job. It's, the brotherhood, sisterhood, it's the bond, the connection that you get is crucial. That's like, even for me, having left the yurt program once and coming back in, that's the part you miss.
yeah,
It's not, I need this uniform. I need this call. I need the brotherhood with the guys on the team. I need a bunch of best friends who do anything for you.
Yeah.
at any moment,
Yeah. Except
because
lecture
that's the
Steve.
kind of when you've had well, exactly,
Yeah.
but when you've had each other's back,
Yeah.
and I mean, I got friends from when I was a little kid, and they're still some of my best friends today. And it's because we grew up playing hockey and getting in fights together, and
Yeah.
just they had your back when you were legitimately in danger.
Right.
And I reference this a lot, but there's a book called The Like Switch, and has something called the friendship formula. So proximity, frequency, intensity, and duration. So that's basically what makes friendship. So your neighbor, you see them all the time, your coworker, all those reasons why we develop friendships.
Yeah.
But a huge one's intensity. When you
Yeah.
go through really intense things, like you've talked about some of these calls you've been through, some of the things you and I've been through, right? That's what builds those friendships, like I jokingly say, like best friends for life. We got a mutual friend, which is Sanjay.
Yeah.
And obviously in my book, I write some journaling, which was essentially emails to Sanjay.
Yeah.
And I ended up talking to him once, and we hadn't talked in like over a year. He's like, man, when we talk, it's just like talking to one of my best friends from high school. It's like we haven't missed a beat.
Yeah.
It's because you go through all this really intense stuff. And it's just like that with you, Ogre,
Yeah.
where like, we don't chat on the daily. We don't chat. There's lots of months we
Sure.
don't chat.
Yeah.
But when we do chat, when we actually get together, or when we have a phone call, it's like nothing. You haven't missed a beat.
Yeah.
And it's because you've been through such intense things together.
Yeah.
It could be 5 years,
Yeah.
and I could see you, and it would be the same thing. It'd be
Yeah.
a big hug, and I'll actually probably close off with something that I learned from you.
Mm.
And in talking a bit about some of the mental health stuff and whatnot.
Yeah.
It's not all work, right? There's
Yeah.
personal aspects. And part of why you need to have a good counselor or whoever you're going to talk to is because a lot of us bring stuff into this, right? And I did too, just like I'm guessing you probably
Yep.
did. And anybody listening to this, you can go work on those things and they become protective factors for you. So if you had whatever your version of childhood trauma is that
Mhm.
most of us had, I think I had a really good childhood, but I still had my own issues to work through. And one of those was actually I had a dad who couldn't tell me he loved me. And I don't think I'm alone in that.
Mm.
And I know you and I have talked a bit about this. And it was actually when I was off work on stress leave, my dad phoned me and told me he loved me. And I mean, my dad didn't even call me back then. Like,
Yeah.
I think my dad loved me. I just don't think he could tell me.
Right.
And back in the day, I would say, hey, Dad, I love you. And he'd say, I know. And I'd be like, hey, Dad, when someone says I love you, you're supposed to say, I love you too. And he'd go, okay. And I mean, it's messed up, right? But it's true. It's all true.
Yeah.
And now my life's gotten so much better because of that. My dad calls me and tells me he loves me all the time.
Yeah.
My dad tells my kids he loves them all the time.
Yeah.
So I think what we need to do is find a way that good can come from bad.
Yeah.
That we essentially integrate some of the experiences that we go through
Mhm.
instead of just repressing them.
Yeah.
And I remember this because you and I would chat, and you would actually say to me, like, I love you.
Yeah.
I love you, man.
Yeah.
And it would make me uncomfortable. And I don't, that sounds bad,
Yeah.
but it doesn't mean to be. It's that it was my own issue. It was growing up in a household where for 20 years, no one ever said that.
Right.
So then when someone says that to you, it's like, I'm supposed to say it back, but I feel uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
But I do, man. I love you. And I
Appreciate that.
appreciate that. So anyways, I just in hearing you speak a bit, it kind of made me think of that and how I think some good has come in my life, even from some of the bad things that have happened to me and that I've been through. And back to your if not when.
Yeah.
Like if you want to do this, you want to go do real hard things, you got to find a way to process it and also to try and find some good out of it.
Yeah.
And even now, some of the coping stuff I've learned, I mean, my kids are just little guys. But when I put my son to bed, like I'll try and use some of that to help him, right?
Yeah.
I'll ask him, hey, what was the best part of your day?
Yeah.
What are you excited about tomorrow?
Yeah.
What are you grateful for?
Yeah.
And like the kind of things that I needed, that I journaled, that helped me to heal when I was off work.
Yeah.
He doesn't have to wait till he's, injured, off work, any of that. That stuff works. Like gratitude works.
Yeah.
But why not just teach it to them young, make it part of our culture so that you can pass on the good that I've learned through some hardship. And hopefully, like my hope is take what I found and make it better, whether that's in the policing profession or whether that's, family, home life. And I think I had things pretty good even in my upbringing, but my hope is to take that and make it better for my family.
Yeah.
I don't know. What are your thoughts, buddy,
Yeah.
in terms of your world?
You know what, man? Like the only way you can truly make your bad day worse is if you don't learn anything from it, if you don't get better from it. And I have not done everything right. And one of the things I'm trying to implement a little bit with my grandchildren, you know, for me, it's like as a dad, it's almost a little bit like policing in that, you get given this shirt and you got to try and do the best you can to make it better. As parents, trying to be some degree better than our parents. We have the best parents in the world, but just trying to be some degree better than than our parents were. And my son is doing things that um, are like astounding. Like they're so much better than I did them, because he's trying to be just a little bit better than I was. And so you talk about like, hey, what's your best part of the day? And one of the things I'm trying to incorporate with my grandkids every once in a while is, tell me something you failed at. And I learned this from a unfortunately, I wish I could reference it, but tell me something you failed at, and making failure a normal thing, making it okay, because we all fail. But what do you learn from it? How did you get better? And I know for me, I've been through a lot of stuff, and I haven't always done it right. I got to a place where, this last July where, I finally realized that I was not coping well. And I was like, I was drinking, way too much. My wife was smart enough not to really say anything about it because she knew I was going to have to deal with it on my own when I made my own decision. And so I came to that place, and I made some changes. And so I actually I went into my boss and said, hey, I think I got a problem, and I'm going to do my best to fix it, but I want to know if I can't, if there's support. And 100% support. Keep us posted, see how you're doing. And so I quit drinking altogether, because I thought that's what I needed. And that's what some people need, 100%. And I'm just going to tell you my own experience because, maybe somebody resonates, maybe not, but don't trick yourself either to doing what I did and then, it not working and you're thinking it does. So I quit for, quite some time. Absolutely. Got into the world because I really like beer. There's a ton of zero beers out there. They're not all good, but there's some great beers out there. Because I really missed that, just having a beer, and so yeah, I got lots of zero beers. But what I did then was, okay, I've got this thing sorted, and it wasn't easy. It was simple, but it wasn't easy. Um, and now, do I have to be that person who can't drink anymore? The way I look at it is, people say, I know, AA says, like, if you're an alcoholic, you're an alcoholic forever. My thing is, if you're an alcoholic and you quit drinking, you're not drinking, you're no longer an alcoholic. If you started drinking again and can't control it, you're an alcoholic again. But it's just maybe nuanceable, but that's the way I saw it. So had to figure out, am I that person who can never drink again, or can I put things in place? So what works for me is I started, okay, we're on holidays, we're away from all the things here. And can I drink while I'm on holidays? Yeah, okay, that worked out. And, we were gone for a week, and one night I was probably at a place where I shouldn't drive, but I didn't do anything stupid. I didn't say anything stupid. I didn't embarrass myself or my family or anybody else. Okay, interesting. So then when I'm out in the bush, okay, with my buddies out in the bush hunting, whatever. Okay, there I might let go and maybe drink some more. But again, I'm in an environment where I can't really embarrass myself or do anything stupid. It's all those kinds of things. And then, okay, what does that look like? And then, okay, cool. So that's separation, different places. Okay, now at home, what does that look like? Well, okay, so go for dinner. Can I have a beer or a drink or two? And that's it? Yeah. And that's where it's come for me. I can do that. Do I have booze in my house? No, absolutely not. Because if it's here, I'll drink it. And so I had to sort out for me what my limitations were and get a hold of it and deal with it. At the same time, I think it's important to talk about this because I think there's a lot of stigma around this specific thing that I think is very important. About a year prior, sitting in my psychologist's office, he looks at me, we're talking, we've got a great relationship. And he says, well, with your ADHD, but I'm like, whoa, so wait, what? And he started to laugh. He said, like, are you serious? You don't know you have ADHD? And I'm like, I'm a 51-year-old dude. How would I know that? Like, when I was in school, you were just a troubled kid. There was no diagnosis, like the kind of awesome stuff that's there today. And policing, I'm telling you right now, attracts people with ADHD. Like there's a ton of cops with undiagnosed ADHD. And so I kind of set it on the back burner. And when I decided that I needed to sort some things out of my life, I decided, you know what, maybe I'm going to try some meds and see if it makes a difference. So I went and saw my family doctor. He's an amazing, amazing man. And he said, yeah, let's try it. And, it's pretty simple. I'm going to prescribe you something. And if you take it and you get all jittery, then you didn't need it. And he knows me well. And he said, yeah, you're probably somewhere on the spectrum because like everything else, it's not just way up here or down there. There's a realm. And I would say within a couple days of taking the medication, it was like, man, I equated. This is an analogy, so work with me, but in the movie Equalizer, when Denzel's there and he sees all these bad guys, and they slow down the production, and he executes all these guys, and then it comes to real time, and then he does exactly what just happened in slow time. It was a little bit like that. Now that's obviously super dramatic, but it was like all of a sudden I was like, holy smokes! Like, does the rest of the world get to process like this? Like, I can be focused. I can like my overall limited anxiety is gone. That feeling of being completely overwhelmed. Yeah, once in a while it's still there. Obviously, that's just life. But it's had a major positive impact on my life. And so when I've talked to people with this, like, well, you quit drinking at the same time, kind of, and like I said, no, I've had days where for whatever reason I forgot to take my medication or whatever, and I notice a big difference. So if you're out there and you're maybe diagnosed or not diagnosed, and somebody said, hey, maybe you should try some medication, I would highly recommend trying it. Now, I got very, very lucky. The first one I took worked, and actually it was a fast acting, so I changed to a slow acting, well, maybe 3 weeks later. Sometimes it takes some time, and then it doesn't work, and you maybe got to try something else and get the right kind of concoction, cocktail, whatever. But don't negate it. It's had a massive positive impact on my life. Again, taking it back to physical versus mental. If you had severe high blood pressure, and you weren't taking your high blood pressure meds, people would say you're crazy. Like, what are you doing? No, this is going to make you a better person. And I'll tell you right now, it's made me a better person. And so if somebody out there on the fence, 100%, I would highly recommend give it a whirl and give it a fair, honest chance. Same thing with the psychologist. Don't just go there and go, oh yeah, it's not working. I don't like this guy. And when they ask you to do difficult work, when they ask you things that are uncomfortable, that's not the time to go, oh, this isn't working. I don't like that guy. No, it's time for you to do some difficult work. So it's all work.
Yeah. Yeah, totally, man. You know what? I remember at one point I went to see a psychologist and I looked at it like surgery. You show up once and you're
Yes.
better.
Yes.
And it's not true. And I remember it was like a 3-hour round trip. By the time I go, I do it, I come back, and I'm like, I'm never doing that again. I don't feel any better.
Yeah.
And now I look at it like physio.
Yeah.
Like you just said, you got to do the work.
Yeah.
I would have, when I was off, I'd have one appointment a week.
Yeah.
And you had the rest of the week to go work on things.
Yeah.
And they would give you things to work on.
Yeah.
So I obviously thank you for sharing all the other parts too,
Yeah.
Dave, of the ADHD and the medication, and for just normalizing it and sharing it in case that does help other people too.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I definitely wanted to highlight what you said there. And you also mentioned earlier about developing that relationship early.
Yeah.
And I mean, you know this from knowing my story, but I showed up one day, I was on stress leave, and my psychologist just forgot about me. Just wasn't there. Like, I'm paying you $200 an hour just to help me.
Yeah.
And I was in tears.
Of course.
It was devastating for me.
course.
And then how do you continue with that person? And now you've got to go find someone new because they've just shattered your trust.
Yeah.
And so hopefully people, and I know you speak to, new police officers, or you have been, and that's a bit of what you were sharing about your when, not if, and really preparing for some of those hard things. And I think, as we're kind of winding up here, I would love to ask, you've already shared so much wisdom. I mean, I've learned so much from you over a lot of years. Is there anything else that you would love to leave people with? You got so much background, so much to draw from. Are there any kind of key takeaways that you would love to leave for the audience out there?
Yeah, you know what? I think, one of the things we talked about is people that are looking to get into this job and either get onto the team. And I think what's vitally important is trying to understand what's important when you're the new guy, right? A new person. So I'll just go through a couple things. This is all stolen information from a Jocko podcast. So just so, and Jocko has no intent in suing me, but, credit where credit's due. And the first thing is this, like when you get through the academy or you're a cop, maybe looking to get onto a specialty section, nobody gives a shit about the training you've already completed. They all had to do the same thing. So good for you. Okay, yeah, you finished the academy or you've been a cop for X amount. Okay, good. So lots of people. Nobody cares. What's important is you got to earn your your reputation. Your reputation is everything, and everything that you do is going to become your reputation. My dad told me very young, you got 2 eyes, 2 ears, and 1 mouth. Use them in the proportion in which they were given to you, right? That's 1 to 4. Keep your eyes and ears open. Keep your mouth shut. Don't be late. Don't forget any gear. Always be looking for work, whether that's in you're trying to get on the team, maybe you're out doing striking. I don't think we don't call it anymore, but you're out role playing or what have you. Always be looking for work. And we're in a new era, and people just I'm seeing things that I never saw before. Great example, we're at the range last week. One of my trainers goes down to post a bunch of targets. There's a staff sergeant there and a sergeant. The staff sergeant was engaged doing something else. And the sergeant runs down range and is now helping my guy post targets. And there's 10 constables standing there watching the sergeant do the work. And I actually said something. I said, this is a place that doesn't make sense to me. You've got a sergeant down there doing work and 10 constables standing here watching. Now you think that at that point a bunch of people would run down there, but nobody moved. So telling. Be teaching, be eager to learn, and always have a notepad, right? You might be in your phone, what have you. And this has happened to me only a couple times, but I've been talking to a junior officer, and I say something that they think is profound. And like I could see you right now throughout this podcast, Mark. I'll say something. You're making notes, and it's not always about what do I want to say next. It's like, oh, okay, that's interesting. Oh, that book, okay. And I've dealt with people, and they pull out their phone. They say, "Hey, I'm not trying to be rude. I'm not texting anybody." But I've got a notes pad here, and that's really important. I want to make sure I don't forget that, and making notes is really important. This applies to life and applies to me, and especially in my journey this last July, getting better. The hard way is usually the right way. The hard way is usually the right way. So do it right or do it again. Extreme ownership, great book. Mark probably mentioned at some point, but if you haven't, there it is. This is about taking ownership for your part. I talked about that earlier. Maybe you're not all wrong, you're all right, but you got to take ownership for your part in whatever's happening. Take care of your gear, and your gear will take care of you. Take care of your equipment. So the next time you need it, there it is. It's good to go. And the same is true to take care of people, and they'll take care of you. Become an asset. Become indispensable if you can. Be a reliable entity that people can trust. Rehearse and visualize to enhance your performance. Whatever that is, rehearse it, visualize it. Be a when person. When I'm looking for something, I'm surprised when they're not there when my buddy opens the closet door. I'm not surprised when they are there. Mental rehearsals, visualization, super important. If you're not going to be smart, be hard. Okay. We want you to be both, but if you can't be smart, at least be hard. Be the person that's working hard and lifting heavy objects and doing the hard work. Never forget attention to detail. Be a good follower. Never miss enough. Go to the bathroom because you never know when you're not going to be able to. When you're out there, you're working on the team or training or whatever's going on, team gear first, then your own personal gear, and then your own self. So the team gear all gets taken care of. Then you take care of your own kit, and now you go get a drink or a bite to eat or whatever you need to do with your own personal person. Use that chain of command up and down, right? No matter what it is, maybe you got a thing and you're thinking, hey, I don't know about that. Talk to the person first. If that doesn't work, then go one step above, right? We shouldn't be jumping up the ladder or jumping down the ladder. Last 2 things, never turn down a course that you're offered, ever. Never turn down an opportunity for training, even though it's something you might not be interested in necessarily right now. It might be that thing when you want to do, that other thing down the road, and somebody gets picked for it because back here when they didn't think it was important, they took that training, and now they have that training for that thing you really want to do. So never say no to training. And last thing is just look squared away. We talked about that so much, that officer presence, and you don't need to get out there and mean mug people or be intimidating or anything else, but look squared away. My dad was a professional race car driver, really into cars, and I was maybe 16 years old. Had no idea about being a cop or anything like that at the time. We're driving down the street, and a police car goes by, and it's filthy. He says, "You see that car?" "Yep, I see the car. It's filthy." I'm like, "Yeah, okay, it's filthy." He said, "If that guy came to my house, I wouldn't give him the time of day." Right? And you're never gonna have to arrest my dad, but you might need that video camera footage that's out front of his house that has the missing person or the homicide suspect or what have you. And you show up and you park that dirty car in in his driveway, and he is this guy. He's probably not going to give you the time of day. And so, yeah, I don't know how it works. Basically beat it, right? Be squared away. The message we want to send to people is, I'm professional. I'm here to help you. I'm professional. But if you're thinking about using violence today, they should be, without me being mean mugging or anything like that, they should be thinking, not this guy, not today. Just be squared away.
Wow, Ogre, thank you. That's a lot of wisdom, to pass on for the next generation, and a lot of truth. At the end of the day, that stuff applies no matter what team you're on.
Yeah.
Right. I think some of that is very informed to the culture we came from,
Sure.
where you could run a briefing at 4 a.m. and there's 50 people and nobody's late. That's the norm in the culture. And if someone was 2 minutes late, you'd be like, what happened?
Yeah.
What's going on there? And then I saw it in civilian life, where then I went and did my master's, and we set a meeting time, and like over half the people are late.
Mm.
Like, there can be very different worlds, and knowing the culture you're in. But for anybody who wants to get into that kind of work, and I suspect that will be some of the kind of people that do listen to this channel. I know I've helped informally kind of mentor a next generation, and many people who want to do some of what I've done. And I will tell you that, Dave, you're a good source of wisdom for that. So take that wisdom in and apply it in your life.
Yeah,
How do you be a good teammate?
If you want this, you could do it. You just got to want it bad enough. Right. And that's,
Yeah.
and anybody can do it. So you just got to prepare right. And there's people out there willing to give you a hand. So yeah, if you want it bad enough.
I will even summarize a decent portion of what you just said in the way I think of it. Team before self. Right? And that's not just gear. That's how do you put the needs of the team first. And if you think of something like a debrief in ERT, it's not sitting there pointing fingers at everybody else. It's saying what you could have done better. It's how you could help the team. Right? So that's a great way to leave it.
Love.
All right, Ogre. Well, I will just say a big thank you. I look up to you for what you've done, both as a man, as a cop, as a trainer, your career, everything, even as a medic. We didn't even get a chance to get into the medic side of things. But yeah, thank you. Thank you for the mentorship you provided me. And I started this channel because I wanted to bring people like you on. You got so much wisdom to share. And, I'm lucky to have this, network of peers and friends like you. And I just want to bring on people like this and share some of that wisdom. So just want to leave it with a big thanks, brother.
Yeah, appreciate that. Never done anything like this before. And it's very, very few people I would have said yes to. So that's a testament to our relationship. So, if it helps somebody, then that's awesome. And I really appreciate what you're doing, Mark, like your involvement in mental health and self-injury potential or prevention rather for cops and first responders is it's brilliant. If you probably mentioned it, and you never sell yourself. I know that, but if you haven't read the book, you guys definitely need to read it. It's worthwhile to read, and not just because I may or may not be have an expose in it, but it's worthwhile. It's real. It's real stuff, and it's totally relatable. So appreciate all the work you're doing, but.
All right. Thanks, brother. Stay on the line, and I'm just going to end the recording here.